It is May 28th, 2025. My name is Amy Feigley-Lee. I'm an artist, educator, and mother from Detroit, Michigan. A little bit about my background and upbringing that is relevant to my artwork. I grew up in a small town called Milford, Michigan, about 45 minutes outside of Detroit. I had a very quiet upbringing in a small town. My entire family lived there, my extended family, grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles. It was the kind of place where everybody knew everybody. And the hub of our life was at my grandmother's house. My grandmother was very nurturing. She always had a warm meal for you or fresh baked cookies. When she wasn't cooking, she was taking care of children, tending to a rose garden, knitting. She was always doing something domestic or care-related. And one of the biggest influences to my artwork is her home, especially the wallpaper. Every room in her house was covered in some floral printed wallpaper. And I spent a lot of time examining that wallpaper. Whether I was lying in bed or, falling asleep at night or taking a bath, it was really the backdrop to every activity. So the floral patterns therein are deeply formative to me as an artist. As I grew up and started examining my life and my upbringing and learning more about the world, I decided to study art. And in those studies, these domestic interiors from my grandma's house really became a subject of interest for me. Not only was I attracted to them aesthetically, but I was also interested in what they represented. To me, they were a representation of domestic life in our small town. They were a visual manifestation of a set of values that I came to understand as very exploitative of women's domestic labor. So when I was working on my undergraduate degree at Grand Valley State University, I was studying artists like Judy Chicago, Miriam Shapiro, Martha Rosler, and how they used the language of domestic interiors and traditional women's crafts to discuss the politics of feminism in contemporary art. Learning about their work allowed me to use visual arts to dissect and question and understand the values of my upbringing. And I've carried these interests in domestic patterns and repetition through my MFA at Cranbrook Academy of Art, and now into my studio as a mother and educator myself. In recent years, I've been using wallpaper to create abstractions. I've been collecting wallpaper since I was a young adult, and I've amassed a pretty good collection, including remnants from my grandmother's home. So I have a large collection of wallpapers from, say, the 1950s all the way up through the 1990s. Many of them are textured, often flocked, vinyl, or reflective. They're a lot of fun and also quite specific in terms of their reflection of the time periods they were created in. So in my work, I've been collaging with this wallpaper, exploring the materiality of the wallpaper, the texture, pattern, colors, and creating these often dimensional wall sculptures that are either, physically dimensional or optically dimensional. I have a lot of fun creating these illusions. So I've been collaging these together, these very, beautiful, placid pink florals, along with like garish orange and brown vinyls from the 1970s, and creating these very highly controlled maximalist abstractions. I'm highly influenced by artists such as Frank Stella and Agnes Martin in terms of the precision and intentionality of the work. But it's really the process of making that brings me a lot of joy. I use an X-Acto blade and a straight edge to cut the wallpaper. It's a very slow, precise process, which forces me to be in one place at a time while I work. So it's this repetitive cutting and just intuitive listening to the materials that puts me in a meditative place. And I feel like being in this state allows me to make aesthetic decisions in my work that I wouldn't have come to otherwise. This really is my place of openness and freedom. And I do believe that comes through in the work. It is very much process-based, very slow and laborious. So I liken it a bit to quilting or needlepoint, in that it is slow and process-based and uses domestic materials. My biggest challenge as an artist right now is holding the dual role in the title of artist and mother simultaneously. Because being an artist is not just a job or a career. Being an artist is, who I am, how I see the world. And I have a great drive and need to create. And it often comes at odds with the needs of others. Ironically, the demand of motherhood is also what led me to develop my current body of work. It began because I needed a practice that I could easily pick up and put down as I was working at home while caretaking. So I developed this collage technique in response to my role as a mother. So I do still reflect upon the domestic sphere in my work as it is created in my current phase of life as being in the position of mother, caretaker, and domestic laborer. But these works come from a place of power and inspiration. I use the conventional and demure floral patterns of the wallpaper to create my own objects of joyful descent. I would tell my younger self to move confidently in the direction of your dreams. This is actually a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson that I've always really liked. And I know that life may not look exactly as you plan it, but your dreams are your compass. So follow those bits of inspiration. Art has always been my true north.